Richard, it's an honor to have you here. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Helena. It's a delight to be with you again. Yeah.
Yes, and it's a special moment for me because some years ago, when I first saw you working with people who were grieving and mourning, I was fascinated by it because you were so authentic, so genuine,
Hmm.
kind, and at the same time very effective, at least from my perspective. So it was the moment when I thought, oh my God, I want more colleagues to see it, to be able to know more about your approach to work with grief, because it's a very complicated issue and very emotional one. So I'm here to ask you questions to
Let's do it.
start the yeah. Um, I would like to start with general understanding, maybe some ideas you have in your mind about what is grief, what is the process of it, what is the purpose of it.
Yeah. Maybe a simple way to say it
Mhm.
is that grief results in I am less.
Mm.
I lost something. Like if my arm were amputated, I would be less without an arm. If I lose my partner, I'm less. Maybe even if I lose my job, I'm less. Right? So grief is always about a loss of a sense of being whole, a sense of being connected to someone or something. Sometimes it can be a body part. Like recently, I worked with a woman who just had a mastectomy, and she's grieving the loss of the feminine part of her that was so important. All right. And so we spent some time really honoring what her breast had meant to her as a woman.
Mhm. Thank you. I think it's very elegant and human way to speak about losses. Like I'm less, now I'm less, and what is my life now?
Yeah. In psychotherapy, a great portion of the grief work we do, but not only, is about loss of someone important in their life. Mother, father, partner, sometimes a child.
Yeah, but you're speaking about, I think, like a general process, whether it's a person or a body part, or some projects, some uh, ideas about future, also
Yes.
some
Or
hopes.
the loss of a miscarriage.
Yeah.
Right? In the article I wrote, what do you say before you say goodbye?
Yeah.
I talked the story about a woman who had a baby die at birth.
Yes.
And 20 years later, she was still mourning until we did a ritual goodbye funeral with that
In group setting.
in the group.
In the group setting, yeah. And you invited her to express her feelings and to imagine what life could she have with this baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very powerful piece of work. I was crying when I was reading it.
Well, it was interesting. Several people in the group who were participating in his funeral were crying, and we wound up doing with two other parents who had lost children that they hadn't thought about for years.
Yeah. Like the vicarious attachment. Yeah, vicarious healing. Mm-hmm. Me personally, I also think that it's very useful to think about losses and general mechanism of it, like not only to focus on losing people by death, but also like I think the internal process is more or less the same. Like it's saying goodbye to something really important to me, saying goodbye to my identity as I have known it, and embracing this uncertainty. I think it's very useful to think about general mechanism of losses, not only to limit this theme, this topic to the relationships between partners, for instance. Something
Yes, but most of the loss that we have to deal with in therapy is relational.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You're describing your approach as truth telling. Yes. True. I will.
Say the word again?
Truth telling. Truth.
Who's telling? Oh, yes.
I am nervous.
Truth telling.
Yeah.
Telling the truth, most importantly, to oneself. And also telling the truth to witnesses. So there is a great deal to be said about doing this as part of a group therapy and having witnesses and having other people involved. Most of your viewers are going to be using it in individual therapy.
Sorry. Переписать? In your articles, you're telling a lot about truth telling. You're describing grief, accompanying grief as a truth telling process. Could you please expand a little bit about it?
Well, I think what's really important, two dynamics. One, telling the truth to oneself. A lot of people in the process of grieving aren't totally truthful with themselves because we have a cultural tradition of talking about the good things about the person. And we forget the things that we don't like,
Yeah.
the things that have hurt us, insulted us, that have really ruptured the relationship too. We cover that up.
Yeah. In Russia, for instance, we have saying like either you're saying good things about deceased or nothing.
Yeah, we say in English, never speak bad about the dead.
Yeah.
No.
Same.
Except some bad things need to be said, some angry things that need to be said. That's part of truth telling. Or if I love you has never been said.
Yeah.
Or remember, Papa, when we had this precious time together, that hasn't been talked about often for 40 years. Those are the kinds of truth telling to oneself, and then truth telling to witnesses. So that the people in the group, or sometimes I'm the only witness if it's an individual therapy.
Yeah.
But still being a witness to the truth telling, to both what the person appreciates and what they resent. Now, that's an idea that I first saw Fritz Perls do in 1967. I was amazed watching him do grief work. And what he talked about theoretically when he talked to the group was expressing resentment and appreciation. But in practice, and if you read his couple books like Gestalt Therapy Verbatim or Gifts from Lake Cotrin, the book called Eyewitness to Therapy, he does some grief work, and he did in actuality focus primarily on the resentment. Although he talked about the appreciations. And some years later, I had done a weekend marathon, and I did 2 pieces of grief work, and both people confronted me and said, "Richard, we're not finished. We need to say more." And it was about their loving feelings. And I realized there needs to be a balance, both about what we detest, what we don't like, Father, I hate your alcoholism. I wish you had never had a drop in your life, and to be really angry with that. But also, I loved it when you were there for me when I broke my leg. and you were there for me at my graduation. And but I hated it when you came to my wedding drunk.
Mhm.
So that you talk about the reality of the whole person and the whole relationship.
Mhm. I also noticed you. I witnessed you working with these polarities, and I also had this impression that it helps a person to integrate the experience.
That is the integrating process of recognizing both
Well,
extreme affects of what I dislike and what I like.
yeah, and it seems that we need both, and validating both, accepting both parts to be able to departure and to follow the rhythm of.
That's right. Now, the other thing too, if I am really successful in my therapeutic inquiry,
Mhm.
I'm inviting them to have memories that they have not had for years. So often, with a good phenomenological inquiry, I'm opening up a whole treasure chest of memory.
Yeah.
Some of it delightful,
Mhm.
some of it painful.
Mhm.
Both are necessary.
Yeah. I just want to highlight this point because I think it's really important for practice to invite a person to remember things that were neglected for many years and to rediscover its importance, its meaning, and yeah.
That's where I think this needs to be part of a general psychotherapy, not just like a one session, because many people don't even know how they've been neglected. Because you cannot know sometimes what was missing that should have been there. That's what emerges in the process of psychotherapy, is that people realize uh, the richness they've received in their relationships and also the neglect.
Mm-hmm.
Many times the neglect are the little tiny things that are not significant at the moment, but it's one after the other, after 100, after 1,000, after 10,000 of those little things that themselves represent a loss, maybe even a trauma.
Yes. And many times when we start to work with loss, we discover that it's like a chain of losses. And
That's right.
like a person was lost many years ago. And
Hmm.
what is happening now, it's like
Yeah.
replication of
For the simple loss in many families is that people live in a ritual with each other and don't take time to have any real intimate connection. That's one of the biggest losses in many families.
in many families, it's true. Yeah. So when you're telling about truth telling, you're very interested in the quality of relationships and telling the truth about the real quality of relationships between these people, for instance, or like quality of relationships with the breast, as you mentioned before. Like what,
A relationship to the job.
yeah, relationship to the job. Mm-hmm. Earlier, you said something interesting about being a witness in individual psychotherapy. Like you yourself, as a therapist, become a witness of a loss.
Yeah, it's more than just eyes and ears, though. It's a witness with my heart. It's the being able to have the empathy to feel their grief. However, not to dwell on it, but to have a reciprocal emotion back. Because if I grieve with them, that's helpful in a way because it provides a shared experience.
Yeah,
But they need me to go beyond the sadness.
yeah.
They need me to respond with compassion when they are sad.
Mm.
When they are angry, they need me to respond by taking their anger seriously.
Mhm. So you want to be kind of sensitive, open, and stable
but also giving them
with
something of me.
of you.
My compassion if they're sad, my serious taking if they're angry, creating a sense of protection if they're scared. Because, I've never talked to my mother, honestly. My mother and I have been estranged for each other for 20 years. I said, I need to provide that sense of protection so that the person would go ahead and speak to that dead person.
Mm-hmm.
Or a sense of joy. If they are happy, if they are having great memories, they need a sense of my vitality.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what we as therapists bring to this process,
Mm-hmm.
which is sometimes what friends do for each other, but it often seems to be missing in friendships.
I'm thinking that what you just described is a nice description of attunement.
Yes. Yeah.
Like you're sensitive, and at the same time you're giving something from you to the client. Like you are responsive to the
Now,
needs.
the problem with families is they often fail to provide that for each other
Mm-hmm.
because they are caught in their own grief.
Yeah, that's true.
So if the family standing around the grave together can often be comforting in their shared experience that they're all crying, they're all sad, but they can't provide that reciprocity of going that next step, of giving something nurturing to the other.
I see this a lot in my practice because sometimes when I work with clients, I even asked them who was grieving in terms of whether my client had an opportunity to cry about his losses, or it was his mother or father or grandparents' grief, like, and for instance, then like a client lost his mother, yes, and the whole family was occupied by that, and her the mom. Yes, I just realized that my client can identify herself on this description.
Let's just cut there,
Yeah,
and I will give an example.
yeah, okay.
Ready? Okay. Yeah, that you raise an interesting issue, and it remind me of a client who never had a chance to talk about the death of her grandmother, a very beloved grandmother who was probably the most loving one in her family. All right. They went back to the family house after the grandmother was put in the ground. First thing her grandfather did was to get drunk. Right. Her father said, well, I can't wait around all afternoon. I've got to go to work.
Mm.
All right. She sat down and tried to talk to her mother, who was the daughter of the woman who died. And the mother just wanted to go to bed and cry.
Mm.
She's left all alone,
All alone.
all alone. And she had been all alone for 12 years before we recreated that scene. And it began with not talking to grandmother, but talking to grandfather and father and mother and being angry at how they interrupted her grieving process. Then finally we could come back and have her talk to grandmother. And in that case, it was mostly pouring out her heart of how much she felt loved by this grandmother.
Yeah.
But it had to do with the anger at grandfather's alcohol consumption, father's workaholic, and mother's withdrawal.
Hey, I'm thinking that your example illustrates how important it is to have people who will validate the importance of the feelings.
Yeah, and I'm always thinking about what is the context in which this grieving occurred. So the example I just gave you is the context of this very isolated family.
Yeah.
Although on the surface they look good. They do all the right things together.
Yeah, and it
That-
doesn't help with
Yeah,
mercy.
that's the
Because
context.
if you're part of a normal good family, then it's even more difficult to get through this normality to your feelings and to your real suffering and to your real needs. Because it's, I think, what you did for this client, you helped her to identify her feelings, her anger, her sadness, to identify, to really feel the importance, how significant this loss was.
Now, I want to say the example I just gave you was not done in a group. That was done in individual therapy, and that was done over 4, probably 5 sessions that we did, not just one session.
Yeah, of course.
And of course, not the entire session is spent on it. We spent maybe the first 5 or 10 minutes with her telling me stories about what had happened in the week and how she managed, and maybe commenting on the previous session. Then we spend maybe the next 30 or 35 minutes dealing with her feelings with these 3 parental figures, grandfather, father, mother, sometimes using an empty chair, talking to it. And then the last few minutes of every session, sort of putting it all together. And so that piece of work was like over 5 sessions.
Richard, and how do you start this kind of conversations? How do you invite a person to this truth telling? Like,
It usually comes up, either they come in and say they're grieving, or it comes up in some way in the story they're telling. Or I might ask, well, I notice you haven't been talking much about your father. Most of what you've been talking about is your husband and your mother. Well, tell me about your father. Well, there's not much to say. He died when I was only 12 years of age. Well, what was that like for you? And what was it like before he died? And so one question goes to another, and I'm often posing my questions to the 12-year-old. And how did your mother handle the death of your father? How did the other family members handle the death of your father? Then younger. So what do you remember before you were 12? And how was it when you were 9 or 6 or 4?
So you kind of explore the context, you kind of explore the feelings, phenomenological reality at different stages, and and you go backward.
I started as a child therapist, and I'm always thinking developmentally.
Yeah.
I'm always thinking about, how are things layered? Like the Russian dolls. What's the name of them?
Matryoshka.
Yeah, like Matryoshka. Yeah, there's always a younger and a younger part in a Matryoshka.
I think it's a very powerful part of your style, and very powerful when you work with grieving, because you really adopt and attune to the age of the child who was grieving and who was not able to name his or her feelings, who was unaccompanied, for instance. And I think it's a very important part of truth telling.
Well, I'm thinking of one client that I saw for several years in individual therapy. The grieving happened because she couldn't take care of the mother who was dying from pneumonia. And she tried to take care of the mother. But then she realized the mother never had any emotional connection with her. Then we went back to her adolescence, and she couldn't tell her mother about the sexual abuse of the father. And when she did try to tell her mother accused her of making it up. But then we worked younger, before the age of the sexual abuse of her father, and the mother was always extremely critical. And when we were even younger, the mother was physically distanced. The mother didn't like giving her a bath. The mother didn't like helping her get dressed or things like that. So we looked at all the different layers
Mhm.
of the sense of ruptured relationship that were still part of the grieving. Because she was grieving, she wanted a mama who would touch her.
Yeah.
She wanted a mama who would protect her. She wanted a mama who would be proud of her schoolwork. And so you had all these different missing mamas that we had to grieve.
Yeah. I think it's a very important point, how every loss or every significant loss is a multiple loss. And we can really track different stages and how it was uh, yeah, how a person was losing a part of his experience, of his many relational needs unmet, etc., etc.
Mhm.
And then that's what makes this grieving so complicated, because now I'm facing the absence of long-term absence of connection with my mother.
And I will never, ever have the opportunity again.
Yeah, yeah.
Except this is what's marvelous, the idea we borrow from child therapy,
Hmm.
that when we're doing like an empty chair technique, we are creating in fantasy what we cannot provide in reality. And it is a pretty good second best. All right. It's not the best, but we allow a fantasy conversation to go there.
Especially in the context of good therapy and good therapeutical relationships.
Now, for some clients, it is too much. They don't have enough relational support to be able to put that father who they've been angry at for years or distant from for years in an empty chair and talk to him heart to heart. So then I want to say, look at me. Tell it to me. What would you have liked to say to that father who never really listened to you? And I want them to see me listening. I want them to see my eyes. And if I'm sad with them, I want them to see the moisture in my eyes. I want them to see the frown on my face so that they can see my empathetic reaction.
And to see the impact.
Yes. Yeah, your story touches my heart. That's right.
Hmm. Thank you. You again coming back to this role of witness and what kind of witness you would like to be in the therapy. Somebody empathetically involved, genuine, attuned, yes, and generous in terms of showing the impact.
Yeah. And many people need to tell it to me once, twice, three times even before they could imagine telling it to an image of the dead parent.
Yeah, I think it's your way to create interposition,
Yeah.
because even then they will be telling it to the empty chair, to the parent, for instance, they will be telling it to you at the same time, and they would have this internal figure inside of them.
Now, it's interesting too that I think that some time needs to go by. Attempting to do grief work immediately
Mm.
um, often seems to be like walking in mud.
Mhm.
It's sticky and
Yeah,
hard to walk
yeah,
in.
yeah.
Um,
Mm.
somehow, a period of time later, and I don't know what that period is, it is probably different for everybody else. Um, Traditionally, around the world, in many cultures, 1 year was considered a grieving period.
Mhm.
Um, there's probably some wisdom in that. that you have to wait and let it ripen, so to speak. But a lot of people I work with, the goodbye is just somebody's been dead for 25 years. Um,
Mm-hmm.
or a job that they lost 5 years ago, but a job that gave them real sense of meaning and purpose.
Yeah.
And then what they lost wasn't the job, it was the purpose and the meaningfulness. Um,
Mm-hmm. So you explore the meaning of the loss, like what is what you lost, what is what made it.
if you had had that job, or if they had given you that promotion, who would you be? And what would other people think about you?
Mm-hmm.
And where would that job have taken you in the next adventure? And now that you don't have that job, who are you? And what does it mean to you? And where have you
Mm-hmm.
gone?
So again, you help a person to understand these polarities, like the lost identity and the preferred identity. I don't know, like yes, and to tell the truth about both, and to really reconnect the experience of.
Yeah. And it's not just telling the truth. For some people, it's thinking about the truth for the very first time,
Yeah, yeah.
recognizing it unto themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When I was reading your articles, when I was observing your work, I was thinking that this truth telling is a very rich and multi level issue, because you invite a person to speak about polarities, and I think it's very powerful itself. Like, what did you like? What didn't? Ah, pausa, né?
Imagine this thing, the whole film to be. Did you have an idea of the final
An
product?
hour and a half, more or less. I think we will.
Generally, professional films people won't even sit that long. They want 1 hour.
But I want to divide it into two parts. I mean, no, I think like it will be a part of the course.
I don't know how long we've been here. Oh, not even an hour.
No,
No, so you've got about maybe 40 minutes of
40
usable
minutes.
material. Yeah. Are you ready? Yeah.
It's difficult to ask you and think in English, like, but I will do my best.
Okay. Take a deep breath and start over.
Hmm. I was thinking how rich is this process of truth telling, and that it's goes beyond just telling the truth, but many times to discovering the truth for the very first time, to expressing hidden meanings that wasn't um, seen, noticed before, and yes, to be brave enough to see the polarities.
Yeah, there's something very healing. I mean, in the 16th century, Shakespeare recognized it. I think if I get his quotation right, I just went blank. Let's start over. Truth telling is something that we've known since the 16th century.
Mm-hmm.
Shakespeare even wrote, until thine own self be true, and as the night shall follow the day, thou wilt be false to no one.
Mm.
So it's the importance of recognizing authentically what's real in a relationship.
Mhm. Could you please provide some examples of questions you would use to start this kind of conversations? How would you ask about uh, advantages, about important parts of relationships? How would you ask about parts that a person would like to distance from themselves?
Okay. It's a good question, and the answer is it's different every time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the woman who I saw, who's 48 years old, she's been divorced for 4 years. Her husband initiated the divorce, but in some ways she was pleased.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a deep sense of being unfinished.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so with her, I had her describe the kind of loneliness she has at night, how she sits and watches television, but that's not fulfilling,
Mm-hmm.
but it puts her to sleep. Um, how she comes home to an empty house and how that leaves her so sad because she misses cooking for him. Um, s-
So
so
you started with her phenomenological experience,
yeah,
how it was for her. Okay.
in the here and now. And then it dawned on me that she was longing for something.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, well, tell me what it was like in the first years of your marriage. And she talked about the joys of shopping in the grocery store and creating meal because he loved her cooking, and how she loved providing a creative meal for him. And I had her tell me about that. And then I went back and I said, well, tell me when you were when you first got married. And she talked about what a tender lover he was and how she hadn't ever thought she would enjoy sex until he treated her so beautifully.
Wonderful.
All right. And with that, she just cried with a sense of joy and loss about how he had sort of made her move from girl to woman in the marriage. And then she talked about, I said, now tell me about when you first met him and tell me about the first kiss. And then I got into, so when he wanted to get married and in those early years of your wonderful sexual relationship, what were your fantasies? And it was the fantasy she couldn't let go of.
Yeah.
All right. Over the years, that man started drinking and becoming meaner and running around with other women. And so by the time he left her, she didn't like him.
Yeah.
All right? But she had been longing for the dream that she brought to that early marriage. So it's about the truth of saying goodbye to the dream of who he was when he was 24 and disliking him by the time he was 36.
Yeah, because a lot of losing happened in between.
Yeah. Well, he started drinking and we got meaner and got sexually involved with other women, and it broke her heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
But she was still holding on to the dream.
Yes. And you're coming back to these fantasy things. I think it's very important because many times people are stuck in their grief and reluctant to move on because of the dreams they have. Dreams about perfect mama. I would have one day if I would only change myself, for
Yeah.
instance.
If only I'm good enough, Mama will be perfect.
Yeah. Dreams about wonderful marriage I would have no matter what my husband is drinking, for instance, etc., etc. I think fantasies are crucial part of this theme.
And that's what they said, how do I inquire? That's one of the things I go looking for. You know, what is the illusion of how
Mm-hmm.
the relationship should have been?
Uh-huh.
contrasted with how it was and dealing with that contrast.
Mhm.
That's the truth telling.
Yeah, because like a person lives in double realities, in the realms, like factual reality and the reality of the fantasies, dreams, hopes. So you're trying to help a person to realize, to get aware of both.
Mhm.
Hmm. And it seems that a lot of both complication and healing happens in fantasies. Because what you're describing is how fantasies makes our grief complicated.
Well, see, when I talk about the fantasies or the discovering, through a good phenomenological inquiry, people often verbalize those fantasies for the very first time.
Yeah.
They've been sort of like in a fog, and by talking about it, they put words to it, they put concept to it, and they realize that this has been my dream, but it's not what actually happened.
Yeah. My fantasy, I can imagine that it was the case with this client who, for the very first time, discovered the richness of of many of her fantasies with you, while she was telling you about.
Actually, in her case, I think she had a really good relationship until he started drinking more.
Oh, okay.
And until he started chasing other women. But I think in the first couple of years, it probably was very good. Now, that's different than the person who has the fantasy about how it will be good.
Mm-hmm.
Then,
Yeah, and maybe her fantasies became more active once the relationships get worse.
and one of the common fantasies that comes up again and again in psychotherapy is the woman who marries an alcoholic man. She knows that at the time she first meets him, he's been drinking and he likes going out with his friends drinking. But she thinks, oh, once we're together, I'll love him enough and he won't want to drink anymore.
Yeah.
And that has been a common dynamic in many alcoholic families where the woman thinks that I could reform him.
So it's difficult to move forward because this dream, this hope, keeps you.
Yeah.
It like uh, tides tides up your energy. So in your phenomenological inquiry, you want to address these fantasies and to make it like clear, open, so a person can reestablish internal contact with that.
So basically, in the work that I do, is that I'll have someone will do the kind of phenomenological interview about their thoughts, their feelings, what they remember, their fantasies. That often leads me into historical inquiry, what actually happened with who, back to their phenomena.
May I comment?
Huh?
Because again, when I was listening to you, I was thinking about a special angle of your phenomenological inquiry. You're asking a lot about values and meanings. Because when you're asking what was wonderful, for instance, with this woman, for this woman, what was wonderful, she started to tell you what this man meant to her. What did he do for her? Who he was for her, and who she was with him. And I think it's a lot about values,
Mhm.
a lot about meaning.
Mm.
Like what was so special, what makes him so special. And yes, because she felt vital, sexually attractive. Yes, and the meaning.
But what you're describing is an applied existential philosophy from phenomenology and existentialism.
Yeah. It's my background, I'm sorry.
Well, that's the bedrock of what we do. Much of what I do is applied existential philosophy,
Mm-hmm.
drawing from Husserl and Heidegger and Buber and Tillich and
Yeah. Like you're discovering terminological content. So what is the meaning? What makes it so important for a person? And the person tells a story that illustrates this importance, yes, and reconnects with this word.
and the assumption that I know nothing about the other person's experience. That all my psychological theories, all my experience with other clients are not sufficient to help me really understand the uniqueness of this person. Therefore, I have to inquire and inquire and inquire without a preconceived notion of who you are, but an openness to discovering who you are. And this is what Martin Buber wrote about in his book, The I-Thou Relationship. It becomes almost a spiritual connection between us.
Mm-hmm. I think you're doing more than that.
Tell me, can you teach me what I'm doing?
Yeah. Apart from this openness and no preconceived knowledge, you validate a lot. And me, I find it crucial. And for instance, when I teach students, I always make an emphasis on that. And I recommend them to watch your videos because it's very different experience than you are exploring and explaining your phenomenological content to a person who is not validating you. It's like having sex in, I don't know, in the Red Square, like in front of an involved group of people. It's quite shameful, strange experience.
Unless you're highly narcissistic, voyeuristic.
And then validation. It creates a lot and it helps to develop the needed quality of relationships.
Validation and normalization.
Normalization, yeah.
Helping people understand that their grief process is normal, or they're continuing to be angry at a controlling mother 20 years after she's dead might be a normal reaction and part of grief.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, And with both that validation and normalization, I try to provide a lot of acknowledgement. So I'm listening to each thing they say. And even though I may not say it verbally, I try to use my facial expression, my body gesture to say, I'm with you, I hear you, I'm acknowledging you. All of those are describing a kind of involvement of how we bring the presence of who we are
Mm-hmm.
into the relationship.
Yeah. I think you have described a lot of acknowledgement in both your examples. I mean that this woman who was suffering because of the loss of her grandmother and nobody was there for her.
Yeah.
What you did, you provided her a lot of acknowledgement.
Well, when Janet Morrison and Rebecca Troutman and I wrote Beyond Empathy, that's what we try to write about, is how we put it together
Yeah.
with our inquiry, our attunement, and our involvement. And I think your audience is lucky that of the many books I've written, that's one of the 2 books that is in Russian
Yes.
and available to people.
Yes. In Russian it's called «За пределами эмпатии».
Okay.
Yeah.
Say it again.
«За пределами эмпатии», Beyond Empathy. It's a very good book, and you're just describing the keyhole model from this book. Thank you for doing this. You know, Richard, I just realized that a couple of times we started to mention sex and some energy changed yes, in this dialogue. And I think it's very typical when that starting to talk about deaths and losses, this vitality thing and life also occurs. I don't know how to say it. I mean, these things, they're very interconnected. And then they're talking about death, we're mostly talking about life.
Hmm.
It's a bit existential again.
Yes, death is a very active part of life. Each year as I get older, I think about it more and more.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. But they are interconnected, I think, somehow. Like, it's again polarities.
Yeah. Well, right now at 82, I'm happy to be alive. So, and I'm happy to be working.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And vital and present and involved. Okay.
I want to just begin then by quoting Niemeyer.
Uh-huh. Um, just
As though I don't know. So just teach it to me.
yeah, okay,
Okay.
okay. Yes, it's very interesting how you saying about the relational context around the grief and the quality of the process for the person depending on the quality of relationships. And it makes me think of Robert Niemeyer and his investigations, because he did a lot of research on grief process. And actually, he came up with very interesting results. For instance, according to him, the best predictor of complicated grief is incapacity to make meaning of the loss. Like age, the circumstances of the loss, etc. Even the quality of relationships, like how important was it.
So you got meaning in relationship.
Yes, he said that the most important predictor is the capacity to make meaning of the loss.
Yes, I'm thinking right away of one family whose child died of childhood cancer at age 3.
Yeah.
And they sort of made her into a saint, that she came into this world to teach them compassion.
Yeah.
And I could see how they were really putting her on a pedestal as part of their grieving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, this idea of lessons that can be learned from
Yeah.
the loss.
I know someone else who made, and I have encouraged this to people, to make a shrine at home. They put up objects and candles and something that they see every day as a reminder in the grieving.
Some
So
people.
what else does Niemeyer say?
Well, he says a lot of things, but now I would like to focus on this meaning process. Do you think it's important? Because in your writings, you're saying more about expressing the truth. You're not saying a lot about exploring the meaning.
Maybe in the writings, but in practice, I often want to say, what kind of message has this person left for you?
Yeah.
Or what kind of gift have they given you in life?
Mm-hmm.
So that's close to the idea of meaning making.
Yes, absolutely.
Or what would you treasure from this person?
Mm-hmm. Actually, it coincides absolutely with my observations, because I've seen you asking these kind of questions a lot.
Yeah. And like one woman said to me, "Oh, my mother always loved topaz, but she could never afford it." And I said to her, "But I bet you can afford it." And then she came back sometime later and she had a beautiful topaz necklace.
Ah.
And she said, after that piece of work, I went and bought this as a treasure to myself because this is my mother. And she wore that topaz piece of jewelry.
Yeah. And this is another very important issue and a very important point. How much saying goodbye we have in this grieving and how much saying hello again.
You can't say goodbye until you've had a real, genuine hello.
Yes.
That's why I titled one of the articles,
Yeah.
What do you say before you say goodbye?
Yeah.
You got to say hello.
Hello. But what you just described is quite the opposite. It's about how to say hello again to the mother. Because now with this necklace or this piece of jewelry, I live in the spirit of my mom. I follow this line.
Which is usually an expression then of appreciation and affection. Yeah.
Yes.
And treasure. What do I treasure from you?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yes, and this is a part that a person doesn't want to say goodbye to. That
yeah.
I want to be in connection with that.
Mm.
And I think like what for me when I was reading some of Fritz Perls' ideas, I was disagreeing about. I didn't agree with him on that because he was saying more about saying goodbye, and it didn't work for me in my experience. Because, for instance, one of the most important person in my life was my granddad. And I never wanted to say a full and complete goodbye to him because it would be such.
You need a treasure.
Yes.
Yeah, you need a legacy.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, I had a wonderful man who was awful as a stepfather. When he was drinking or wasn't drinking and wanted to drink, he could be just awful. Well, not fighting, but is quite withdrawn. But as I've gotten older, I want to tell his story. I want to tell the story about the little boy who lost his mother when he was 2, his father who burned down their house to get the insurance money, being sent to work in the coal mines when he's 10. You know, all of that, those kinds of tragedies that led to his being a troubled man at age 40. And I think that would be my gift back. So it's not just his giving me a gift.
Mm-hmm.
I think what I'd like to do is maybe do a novel that incorporates his story for the world. To hear what happens with.
Why would it be so important to you?
I don't know. It's just been my fantasy in the last year. Um, I don't know the why. I just know that this has been the fantasy of uh, wanting to tell that story.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah. Thank you for sharing it. It seems
Because I know why I told you. It's a two-way street. It's not just taking the treasure from them, but I think there's a sense of maturity when we want to give something back.
yes, that's why I don't completely agree about legacy thing. I think it's more like saying goodbye and reconnect again.
Yeah.
I mean, with all these stories about troubled child, what you gain is this ability to be reconnected again.
Yeah. I mean, one of the gifts he's given me is the capacity to work with schizoid process. Since I lived with it for 20 years.
Oh, that's how you. Yeah, okay. I mean, I learned it from you, but you learned it.
I learned it from him.
I'm grateful for him too. Because like, oh. Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, I just express it's my need. I just want to point it out because mm, I don't know, I have this need to describe and to give you back a reflection how I see your work with grief.
Okay.
I don't know if you did.
It's always nice to have good feedback or bad feedback, but feedback, if it's honest. Yeah.
I think what you are doing in practice with your clients, in the group settings, etc. For me, it's way more complicated and complex and complex and rich than you described in your articles, because you're doing a lot of work on exploring these meanings, and in a very phenomenological way, and a very skin to skin way. I don't know, felt sense. And it's very powerful because you are doing it in involved relationships. Because once, for instance, I was seeing you doing a marvelous piece of work, and you ask a person to tell the truth about, I don't know, the parent, and then you interrupted and say, no, say it to me. Are you telling it to me? Because I want to feel it. I want to feel your story. And it was such a powerful and intimate moment. And it's not about truth telling. It's
No, it's about the connection.
yeah,
It's about creating a heart-to-heart connection.
heart connection, yeah. And also many times,
And I want them to see that I'm moved by their story.
yeah,
It's not just their story into a vacuum, but it touches me.
yeah, to be moved and to let the person to see it, to see the impact, to have this shared experience. Yeah. And also, I was thinking about this dance, about goodbye, saying hello again, because one point that is very clear in your writing is that you cannot say a proper goodbye if you have never said good hello. But then many times uh, I, I've seen how you inspired people not to say full goodbye, but to stay connected, to stay close, to say a new hello to these relationships.
Some of the most meaningful work that I've had a sense of accomplishment with, and people have come back saying, he said, I walked out of that hospital room, I'm happy. All my life I thought I made it up. I always thought I was crazy. Number 4, just the opposite. We prepare her, and she goes to see her father. He's not in the hospital. This one's still at home. But she tells him, Dad, we need to talk about what you did to me when I was a little girl. And he said, you're crazy. You're a liar. You've always been a liar. You are the troublemaker in the family. You tried to tell that to that lie to your mother when you were 11 years old, and you know it's a lie. It's a lie. You're crazy.
So he attacked her.
And she walked out of there and said, I'm not crazy. He's crazy. So both results resulted in the person saying, I'm not crazy. So you can't always predict what the outcome will be when you prepare somebody to say goodbye in preparation for their death.
I also think that you create also a kind of new experience, correctional emotional experience for them, because it's so different to be accompanied by someone involved who is so open, honest, and dedicated to their well-being.
Mm.
Because who's honest and strong enough to say, it's the moment to go to the hospital.
Yeah, go. One of the things I'll often say, you want a chance to say goodbye to your mother, take her for a long drive in the country. Don't do it in the living room in front of your father.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. Take your father for a long drive. Take your mother out to lunch. Another one is don't expect to have all this conversation at one time. So you spend an hour together and you do 5 minutes of this intimate conversation this time, and you do 5 or 10 minutes next time. Don't expect to go in and tell them all about what went wrong in your childhood.
It's beautiful how you switch between working with adult and child ego states, because what I've seen is when you're working with adult part, you are very precise about reality, about details, and very empowering in terms of do it, go, like enhancement.
But yeah, I suppose in the end, I'm a behavioral therapist. I'm a behavioral therapist in the end. I think I work a lot with affect and with people's body sensations and their cognition. But yeah, in the end, good therapy is now go do it.
Sometimes, yes. We have this luxury in our practice just to focus on the behavior.
But the relationship comes first.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Would you like to add something? I don't know. Do you think that we've covered everything?
Just that it's been an honor to be here, to talk with you, to talk with your potential audience, to share these ideas together. And I hope it stimulates them to read Beyond Empathy and to read Integrative Psychotherapy in Action and maybe some of the other books that are in English. And it'd be nice to meet the same group of people face to face someday. So
Thank you so much. Thank you. Good. So, Richard, because it's always it happens. The same happens with demonstrations for me, because now we were both protecting the client and the importance of the moment. It was the moment when you were sharing the client's the experience of your client when she went to her father and he said, "Yes, I did abuse you," and I was shivering, and you nearly started to cry, and yeah, we continued, but like
I think they should leave that in.
Huh?
Leave that in.
Yes, but we don't have any good quality. We need to say it again. Yeah, and they cannot do it with the same emotions. But we will try.
I got to think more with
Вот тогда мы придумаем, что с этим делать, но лучше
I will explain it.
ну, им самому честь как-то можно наставить. Мне кажется, вот начало, когда многие начали, ну, и мы там можем монтировать. Потому что, ну, это на всякий случай.
Just
Чуть-чуть как-то, потому что, ну, эмоция та, которая была, мне ее оставить, потому что, ну, все. Ну, просто дуже, ну,
yeah.
If they're going to cut and paste, I know right where to start.
Yes.
You don't
yes.
even have to ask me.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
It will be cut and paste. Just in case some of this material will be lost due to the I'm tired, and coming with an early flight is not a good idea. Yeah, like we don't have to replicate the emotions, the original emotions, because it's not possible.
I can't tell that story without being touched.
Okay, you can do it again. Okay.
I mentioned it this weekend in the Gestalt conference. I had tears running down my eyes.
Okay. No problem. He will repeat it with the same emotion.
Because I had worked with her for so many years, so you're not crazy. And she didn't believe me. And she's pretty borderline like.
She did believe you or not? She did believe you or not?
Well, off and on. While in the office, she believed me. And when she went home, she didn't really believe me. Or vice versa.
Yeah.
Okay. So what question?
You were telling about anticipatory loss, and how important is to accompany the person.
Yeah, a lot of people start anticipating the loss. They're grieving before the parent dies. And so I spend a lot of time with people preparing them to make a rapprochement
Mhm.
with the family, to really connect with that parent and say, oh no, my father won't understand me, or my mother is too cold and controlling. And so we do a lot of work about what went wrong in the family and focus on what they needed in the relationship. And we do a lot of rehearsal about what they could say to finally make a meaningful connection with that parent, which involves often rehearsing, talking to that
Mhm.
parent.
What I didn't say to you, but what I wanted to say to you, what I would like to say.
What I've never told, the truth I've never told you.
Yeah, the truth I've never told you. Yeah.
But there's no matter how much.
Could you please tell us about grief work that happens before someone dies?
Yes. Over the years, I've had a number of clients who are quite estranged from the important people in their life, like their mother or their grandfather or father. And so they need preparation to begin to create an intimate conversation,
Mm.
which sometimes they don't even know they're longing for it. But they need that connection to sort of heal and continue to grow. So I do a lot of preparation. Tell me about your relationship, maybe even rehearsing by having them imagine the mother in the empty chair and talking to her about her controllingness and her cruel words,
Mhm.
right? In preparation for going to see that parent and having finally a meaningful conversation. But there's no guarantee, right? Uh, One client
Life is
who
full of surprise, yeah.
really longed to go see his father and yet dreaded seeing his father. We prepared him because he wanted to talk to his father about the physical abuse that his father had inflicted on him. Father admitted it. Father spent a lot of time talking about the physical abuse he received as a child, but he realized that what he did had hurt his son, and the father invited the son to come back for another visit. The client
What a
came,
powerful moment.
yeah,
Wow.
the client came back to therapy feeling validated that he had accomplished something and thanked me for preparing him and pushing him to go see his father. Another client wants to go see her mother. And again, the mother has been controlling and manipulative, accusatory, and she had only a very short, she went expecting to spend 3 days. She left after one day. She said, my mother was worse than she was when I was an adolescent. She said, now I realize where the problem is. And she said, and I don't think we'll ever have a meaningful conversation. I'll go see her again, but I will keep it superficial. She can't handle intimacy. Two very different responses. Right? The third one,
But both are very clear.
yeah, the third one, who I'd spend a lot of time with her, she was really a very emotionally disturbed woman. I finally, after a few years, got her ready to go see her father before he finally died. And it's a wonderful story because she came back saying she walked in the hospital room. As soon as he saw her, he said, come here. I need to tell you, I can't die without telling you. He said, I know I have hurt you all your life, but this is what I did to you when you were a little girl. And he talked about the sexual abuse. And they wept together And she got up in bed and held him in her arms. She had been estranged from him for 25 years. And they had a wonderful time together before he died. And then when she came back to therapy, she said, I'm not crazy. All these years, I thought I had made it up. I thought it was my own fantasy, my own eroticism. She said, but he told me, and I remembered exactly what he told me about. And it did happen. Fourth client, very similar experience, preparing her. She goes to tell her father again about the physical and the sexual abuse. And he said, you're the bad kid. You deserved what you got. But I never did anything wrong to you. You're a liar. You deserve the beatings. Yes, I hit you now and then. He beat her often. And he sexually abused her. But he said, you made it up. You're a liar. You were always a troublemaker. In fact, I should have beaten you when you told your mother that I sexed you.
So just another portion of blaming.
And she came back to therapy and said, I'm not crazy. He's a liar and he's crazy. He's always been a liar. He's always been crazy.
And now it's evident to her.
Yeah. And then
And it's a relief.
both of these women is like a load off their mind. Two very different reactions. So I can't predict how the parents are going to be. But what I can do is prepare the person to have that sense of support, taking me with them. Sometimes I even give them some little trinket.
I think it's very existential and very true. I mean, we cannot manipulate life. We cannot manipulate others, but we can really prepare our clients and give them a piece of us to take to the
Well,
difficult conversations.
my daughter used to like to collect stuffed animals. So every time I travel,
Oh,
I
I
got
love it very.
stuffed animal, and I give it to them. But after 6 months or a year, they got bored with it. So I'd steal them from the house and put them in my office. And on one occasion, this woman said, it's going to take a lion's strength to deal with my father. So I gave her one of these little stuffed animals. And she took it, and she had it on her lap when she went to have a reunion with her parents.
What was the name of the lion?
Huh?
What was the name of the lion?
Or it was just lion. At
Lion.
least in the family, there was no more lying in front of the lion. I don't know if that'll play in Russian, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Richard.
You're most welcome. I hope that your viewers benefit from listening to our conversation, from reading Beyond Empathy, from reading Integrative Psychotherapy in Action, or on my website at integrativepsychotherapy.com. There's many free articles.
I'm sure they will benefit, especially from your presence, because it's so important to have this example.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
because to be co-regulated by the tone of your voice, by your generosity, by your presence, by your wisdom, and
And I'm so appreciative you're teaching integrative psychotherapy in Russia. Thank you.
thank you.